So if you're anything like me, you probably have multiple sports apps installed on your mobile device, and you get alerts throughout the week updating you about your favorite team. And if you're a Vikings fan, you probably got this to pop up on your screen at some point earlier in the week. And I figured we would talk about this today because it feels like we're just going through the roster one by one. We started with Kirk Cousins. We talked about Danielle Hunter. Today we're talking about Kyle Rudolph and the interview he did on the podcast. I forget what it was called. It's the podcast with Ben Leber, and he made a lot of interesting statements. And it sounds like he has no interest in both leaving Minnesota and no interest in taking another pay cut. And I don't blame him. But anyway, let's talk about the situation. So Kyle Rudolph has been in the league since 2011. He's played every single season with the Minnesota Vikings. Me personally, I'm a fan favorite. I think he's a great player. He's not one of the tight ends that has transcended the position. He's never been that, and I don't think he was ever going to be that. But he's been a nice option in the passing game, and a guy who is versatile enough, who can do a lot of other things for you, run blocking, pass blocking. And it's been great to have him for his entire career. It's very rare that you get to keep a player with this kind of longevity. What it's been 9 years. I think he came in the Christian Ponder draft, if I remember correctly. He was a second-round pick. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, more to the point is that the writing is on the wall, as he specifically said in a quote during the podcast, that he's just not getting used anymore. And at the age of 31, which is what he is, it's kind of surprising that, he's been sort of deregulated to a very diminished role. But at the same time, you look at the offensive philosophy that currently exists in Minnesota and has been installed ever since the drafting of Dalvin Cook, and the realization that Mike Zimmer wants to ground and pound and not trust the quarterback that he has and play defense. So I guess it really is, no surprise after all, that he's been mitigated to blocking, and then blocking some more. And then once in a while, he gets to catch a pass or two. I think that's why a lot of us were really surprised during this season when Irv Smith had a couple of really good games. He was getting featured a lot in the passing game, and even reporters pressed Mike Zimmer about that. Is that something we're going to continue to see going forward? Because getting, production out of the tight end position hasn't been one of the focal points of this offense, and it's been like that for years. Kyle Rudolph has never had a 1,000-yard season. He's had some pretty good seasons, 9 touchdowns his second year in the league. He had a 7-touchdown season, I believe, in 2016. I've got all the stats up there on the screen. You can check all those out. But, he's been really, I'd say above average to a really good tight end for the majority of his career. There's been some down years, but it's just never been, the focal point of the offense. He's had, I think there was one season he had a ridiculous 136 targets, but the last few years we've seen everything, all the numbers come down, 82 receptions, 60 some receptions, 40 some receptions. And then in 2020, he's barely used at all. And it wasn't until, mid-season when we got to see Irv Smith start to get used, because they originally drafted Irv Smith Jr. out of Alabama in the second round 2 years ago. So what does all this mean? So I think a lot of people point to the end of the season this year with Irv Smith's production, and even Conklin stepping in and having a role in the passing game when they're down late and they need to move the ball down the field. That I believe that, maybe I don't speak for everybody. I don't speak for the majority of Vikings fan, but there's been this growing sentiment that Kyle Rudolph is basically at this point expendable, given how much he is paid and how little production we have been getting out of him for the past number of years. And a lot of that is by design. It's not just because he's going out there, he can't get open, and, he's always been a very good red zone target. It's not that his skill set has diminished. It's just not really, I understand the complaining about the usage, but, look at the offense that you're in. It's a 1993 run first offense. So if they were to cut him or trade him, I believe the cap hit with the contract up on the screen now, I believe the cap hit is $4 million in dead money, but they would save $5 million. He has come out and said he is absolutely not going to restructure. He believes he is worth every penny and every dime that he is currently signed for. and he is signed for a couple of more seasons, I believe until 2023, when he'll be 33, 34 years old. At that point, he said during the podcast that he would be willing to restructure to stick around for a few more years at a low price and help out younger guys get acclimated to the league. That was sort of his, his how he would like things to work out, if you will, his idea of the future. So let me pose the question to you, Vikings fans. How do you feel about Kyle Rudolph? I think it would suck to see him go, but I think at this point we are looking at the writing on the wall being that veterans are going to be on the chopping block, and there will be cap casualties this year because I believe we are currently $12 to $15 million over the cap for 2021. So we have to bring that number down because the salary cap itself is coming down due to lost revenue of this past season. And the tough decisions are going to have to be made. He's made it clear as day he does not want to restructure. So they're going to have to make a decision. And I don't know how much longer it's going to take for them to start making decisions. I finally caught wind of them actually interviewing a coach for the special teams position. That's the first one we've heard of since the beginning of the offseason. But, let me know what you think about Kyle Rudolph in the comments below. Do you want him to stick around? Do you agree with him? Do you think he should be used more? Do you think he's past his prime? Do you think he ever had a prime? What is your overall take on the Kyle Rudolph situation? And should the Vikings retain his services for the next season? Or do you think he's just simply done in Minnesota? That'll do it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.